You chose the perfect day to hit play. It is the sex episode of 40 Thrive. Let's do this.
You're listening to the 40 Thrive podcast, the show created for women 40 and beyond, ready to shake things up. And now, your host, Jackie McDougall.
Welcome to another episode of 40 Thrive. So recently, Wendy Miller calls me up and says, hey, what are women doing over 40 in the bedroom? And I'm like, I don't know. Let's ask them. So we got together. We partnered. We reached out to the women in the 40 Thrive community. And the rest, as they say, is bedroom history. So I'm going to let Wendy take it from here. It is an amazing episode. It's eye-opening. And maybe it will give you some ideas to spice things up. Before we do, you know you've heard it before. Whether you're celebrating Single Awareness Day, Valentine's Day, whatever you're doing this week, if you're a woman over 40, you likely need lubrication. I cannot say enough about Coconut. Seriously, Coconut. They are dedicated to helping couples, and if you're by yourself, increase the capacity for connection, intimacy, and pleasure. And you can get 10% off using the promo code THRIVE at coconut.com. Go to coconut.com and use the promo code THRIVE at checkout for 10%. That's Coconut, like coconut without the T. All right, I'm going to let Wendy Miller take it from here. This is so much fun. I think you're going to have a blast.
You guys, I'm in full-on anthropologist mode this week, as I wanted to know what women over 40 were doing in their bedrooms. You know, other than binge-watching HGTV. There's a tendency for us to want to compare ourselves to others, especially when it comes to sex. You want to know where you rank, right? Or there's something weird about you. So for a fun episode, I partnered with my friend and podcast coach, Jackie McDougall, who runs the 40 Thrive community, to ask women a series of questions about sex. How much they're having, are they satisfied, are they looking for more, what's with Sam Elliot's mustache, all the sex questions. And now you're going to hear the results. Also, I'll be putting everything in my show notes so you can see all of the raw data. It's pretty eye-opening. So here I am with Jackie McDougall and your answers.
Sit back, relax. Here's our special guest.
A couple weeks ago, I was on Lisa Oregon's podcast, Project Woo Woo. She had me playing Architong, which was really fun. And it's a great podcast. You know, you play different people. My husband was just Neil deGrasse Tyson. It was really, really fun. And so I totally wanted to steal her idea and interview you as the woman over 40 and ask you all about your sex life. Now, of course, you're a lot smarter than me. And you said, well, why don't I ask the people in the 40 Thrive group a series of questions, and then we can actually work off of a survey. You very graciously offered to talk to the women in the group and ask these questions that I came up with very scientifically while I was watching HGTV. And I would love to talk to you about these results, because
Awesome.
Going through them, were you at all surprised by them?
The first thing was I was surprised at how forthcoming these women were to like, sure, I'll answer.
Well, it's anonymous.
It is anonymous. But I liked that we were like, we need 100 answers, because I at least thought it's a legit survey if you have 100 answers.
I guess. I don't know.
Based on nothing.
4 out of 5 doctors recommended Trident gum. That's only 5 people surveyed. So that's been working for 50 years.
That's true. I think mostly it was because I wanted to understand percentages would be easier if I had an even number, an even 100. But we got 102, and one of and this is where I'm most impressed. Only one of them was a dude under 40.
How do you know that?
Because I added to your questions, do you identify as female?
Uh-huh.
And are you over 40? And you posted it as women over 40 should respond to this, but some dude under 40 was hell-bent on sharing his thoughts. So I just deleted him.
All right. So I think, folks, when you listen to this, you are either going to hear yourself over and over and over again, or you're going to find out you're an outlier. And I think a lot of people think that they're boring and average, and there's no such thing as either, I think, when it comes to sex anyway.
Yeah, I mean, if you're having it, you're not average.
Okay. That seems to be the executive summary here. All right.
Well, we do get into, like, you asked questions about toys, and if your partner's watching porn without you, is it cheating? And who is your like hall pass that you could, and so there's some really juicy stuff coming up.
Cool.
But what I thought was really interesting was like the basics, that how important is sex to you? Because you are in this world much more than I am.
Yeah.
And I meet and talk to a lot of women who are like, I don't care if I ever have sex again.
I hear the same thing.
And so I thought that it would be pretty middle of the road, but over 60% rate the importance of sex as an 8 or higher. Just under 12% rate it as a 3 or below.
I'm pleased that it's such a high number that sex is important to women because it's a health issue. I mean, it's not just boning. The more sex you have, it's better for your body. It's better for your mood. It's better for your stress level. I mean, there's so many benefits besides just, what's been stigmatized.
Yeah. I mean, if you're talking about self-care, having sex is absolutely part of that. The frequency surprised me.
Okay, well, read the question, if you will.
Yes. How frequently do you have sex? And then we gave them some answers. But I did leave all of these questions open for like an other.
Uh-huh.
And so the charts look like if somebody sliced up pizza, by 500 because everybody's adding comments. But partly I was like, oh, this sucks because they're adding answers. So I can't, I have to add those up and all that. They really jacked up my charts.
I gave you all the hard work, by the way. I just came up with these questions. You did everything else.
But on the other hand, there are some comments in here that are gold. And so how frequently do you have sex? 51% have sex at least once per week.
Okay.
21.6 once a week. 19.6 twice a week, and 9.8% have it 3 times per week.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm impressed by those ladies.
That's impressive. 3 times a week.
Yeah. Do you have it 3 times a week?
No, I do not have sex 3 times a week. Even when I was having tons of sex. The only time I had sex 3 times a week was when I was trying to get pregnant. I also have a kid, and I have 500 jobs, and I'm dealing with menopause issues and, my own hormone situation I'm trying to get right. But no, 3 times a week, that's never been a goal for me.
Right.
Do you have a sex goal? Like, do you think like if it's not this number of weeks, then you should have sex when you want to have sex?
Yeah. We're going to get into that because you actually asked if people were having sex when they didn't want to.
Right, to keep their partner happy.
And many do that, and we will get to that.
I had a feeling.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. So people are having sex pretty frequently. But one thing I wanted to share too is I did ask what your relationship status is, and so almost 59% are in a long-term committed relationship of 10 years or more.
Okay.
And over 18% are in a committed relationship under 10 years. So 77% of the people who replied are in a committed relationship. The rest are like divorced and single and dating and all that. So you did ask how people would describe their sex life, and 23.5% said completely awesome.
Oh, okay.
That's really impressive.
I think so.
36% has its ups and downs,
okay,
which I think is much more realistic for those who are in long-term relationships.
And also deliberately funny. I wrote that joke to be fun. I wrote that line to be funny. It has its ups and downs. That's not a mistake.
And then in this one, like there's a bunch of like small little, like enjoy it when I have it. Don't miss it when I don't. Great when we're both in the mood. People have their own comments here.
Sure.
But let's get to the juicy stuff.
Okay, that's it.
Would you consider an open relationship? What percentage do you think people said yes?
Said yes? 15.
19.6.
Oh, that's
almost 1 in 5.
That's surprising.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's who just said yes without adding their own spin to it.
Right.
So one person said, yes, I have other partners, and fine, but keep it to yourself. Well, I think the point is you're not keeping it to yourself.
I think they just want other people to keep it to themselves. Is that what that means, I think?
Right.
Yeah.
Like if you have it, just shut up about it.
Just shut up about it.
Yeah.
I want to hear about your side piece.
Yeah. This one person said, for me, not him.
Oh, really? Well, I can tell you that's a recipe for disaster right there.
When it's open for just one person?
Yeah, because I've gotten email from people saying, "Hey, my husband has no sex drive and he says it's okay if I am with other people." But really, when you're going to open up your relationship, you should open it up for both of you.
Right.
Otherwise, there are going to be problems. It's technically something that you can do together. So even though that sort of doesn't make sense, but certainly swinging is something you do together. But when you do open up your relationship, you really both need to have the same rules.
Right.
Because if you don't have the same rules, it's going to create resentment. It just is.
Yeah. But do you think having an open relationship and being a swinger, is that the one and the same? Like, I think
No.
about open relationships where like he could go and have sex with somebody like Friday and I don't say anything about it if I'm not there. So
Right.
is an open relationship including whether you're there together or whether you're not there together? I guess that's part of the rules, right?
There are all different delineations, but an open relationship means you each have sex, or perhaps one of you has sex outside of your core relationship. Now, if you're a swinger, that's generally having sex as sort of a fun thing and no emotional attachment. If you have much more of an emotional attachment, it's kind of a polyamorous hookup where
Right.
you actually have romantic feelings towards other people. Because sometimes if you're in the swinging lifestyle, you really shouldn't be texting some other girl or a guy back and
Right.
forth. You know, your primary partner might be a little offended by that. So you have to be very careful about that. You have to know your rules. And this is the most important thing. If you are going to open up a relationship, you have to go over your rules. There's a great book called Opening Up by Tristan Taormino. It actually has workbooks in it that you can do together and set up your rules. So your communication level has to be at the highest in order to have this kind of relationship. So these are not things that you want to like enter into sort of half-assed, pun intended. You want to be full-assed, and you really want to know what your rules are together.
Be full asked.
Be full-assed.
That's hilarious. So we asked, how often do you experience an orgasm during sex? This was really interesting to me because you talk about this. Like, you really opened my mind at one of the events that I hosted, the Self-Care Project, and you spoke and you were awesome on this panel.
Thank you.
And you were talking about how we have been having sex for men, basically, if
Yep.
you're a heterosexual,
Yeah.
since the beginning of time.
Yeah, basically.
And it's always been about their needs. And you just really shifted the way I thought and the way a lot of women were thinking. And we're like, oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, because
isn't that interesting.
we have a tendency to put everyone else's feelings before ours. That's how we're socialized. But yeah, first of all, I read this great study that after a woman loses her virginity, it's about 10 years before she starts having sex for her own pleasure.
Yeah.
For those 10 years, it's mostly about
That
just...
tracks.
Right? That
Yeah.
tracks. It absolutely tracks. For those 10 years, she's like, I'm going to be good at sex. I'm going to learn how to be like the best at giving blowjobs. I'm going to be I'm going to be a freak, never even thinking about her own pleasure and her own needs. And so it's maybe not until her mid to late 20s, or depending on when you start becoming sexually active, that you really start advocating for yourself in bed. But a lot of women won't do it at all.
Right.
Because they somehow think that it's shameful or it's inappropriate for them to have sexual desires or to want to advocate for themselves in bed, because we've been socialized with so much shame and judgment around sex as women.
Well, do you also notice, I was watching something recently and they were talking about the number of women who can't climax without having both stimulation and penetration.
Sure.
And to just tell you right now, I totally understand that because that is me.
Of course.
So, but when we start having sex with men, it's like, it's all about the ego, right?
That's right.
And so God forbid you say, oh, I have to be doing this, or this has to be happening while that happens. And like, these are my needs.
Right.
That it basically, it takes an act of courage for a woman to say, hey, I want this to work for me too.
Well, that's absolutely
and this is what
right.
it requires.
It takes an act of courage to say, hey, can we try a vibrating object on my clitoris? Because women are afraid that guys are going to be offended, like, oh, she's going to think I'm not enough, and so I better not.
That's exactly right, though, because it's true. There are men out there who are like, well, you shouldn't have to have that.
But there are men out there who think that there was a woman at the 40 Thrive event who wouldn't buy lube because she thought it would offend her partner. And so she's having painful sex instead of making it easier. First of all, having a vibrator, fellas, makes things easier for you. I've used this analogy 100 times. You could cut the front yard with a scissors or with an electric mower.
Right.
One of them is going to be a lot faster and do a great job. The other one's going to take a long time and might not work that well. Don't think of it as something that says you're not good at what you're doing. Think of it as something that's for her pleasure. That's the whole point in being there. I think a lot of men really want to please women sexually. They really want to be sex gods. And so if you say, hey, you will really get me off if we use this, it's not about your ability. It's about what my body requires in order to reach climax. You want to make me happy? You want to get me off every time we have sex? Let's use this. And I think it's just a way of framing it so we don't make it threatening to those people, and we make it more about, this is going to make you better at pleasing me.
And thankfully, women over 40 are much more willing. I mean, I know from myself at 48, I'm much more willing to say, hey, let's try this than I would have at 28.
We need to be advocating for ourselves so much more. And if you are over 40, we should be past the zero fucks land at this point. And, you know, I don't know how much more sex I'm going to get to have, honestly. So I want the rest of the sex in my life to be really great sex. And so that means advocating for what I want, telling my partner, and getting what I want.
There you go. So when I asked, or when you asked through me, how often do you experience an orgasm during sex?
I'm going to say 50%.
That say always?
That say always.
30%, 30.4 say always.
Wow.
But 32.4 say usually. So 62.5 or almost 63% always or usually have an orgasm during sex. My group of women rocks, first of all.
Well, listen, if you're not having an orgasm during sex, that doesn't mean you don't rock.
No, of course.
But they get rocked.
But they're getting their needs met.
They're getting their needs met.
And this is a leap, but by getting their needs met, I have a feeling some of them have asked. And communicated and put their needs first.
Yes.
And so when I say they rock, they're not rocking because they have an orgasm. They're rocking because they have prioritized
That's right. They have prioritized themselves, and they're having better release, and they're having better orgasms because they're requiring it.
Yeah.
And each of us should be requiring that.
Right. And another 18% said sometimes. And then there's the rarely. Actually, 11.8% say rarely.
Was there a never?
Yeah, it's very small. 2%.
Okay.
Say never. And then some people added, I love the added comments. I always make sure I finish, even if it's by myself in the bathroom afterwards. Isn't that where we go when we have to do anything? And then somebody commented masturbation as well. Mm-hmm. But they might also not be with a partner.
Oh, I see.
You know.
Jesus, if you're having sex with yourself and you're not having an orgasm, some people just can't reach climax.
It's true.
Yeah.
Do you think that those who can't or feel like they can't, like they truly, it's impossible, or you think they just haven't discovered the secret sauce?
I don't know. I know that the older you get, the harder it is to achieve orgasm. Dr. Sherry Ross told me that. She said, it's like you require more stimulation as you get older because your body's changing.
Right.
So, whereas before, like you're probably riding your bike down the street when you're like, 15 years old and like, what the hell's happening? But yeah, you get older and it requires more work, just like anything else. It's like maintaining a house.
Right.
Same
with like skincare.
That's exactly right.
So we asked if your partner watches porn without you, do you consider it cheating?
Yes.
And 84% said no.
Oh, all right. I'm surprised by that because that was the number one question that Stacey Kaiser gets. That really? A lot of people feel that their male partners watching porn is considered cheating.
Huh. Only 6.9% said yes. And then there was a shit ton of other, like my partner doesn't watch it as far as I know. Not as long as it doesn't become obsessive. No, but I also don't want to know. Maybe not cheating, but a betrayal of some sort.
Okay, that's interesting.
If my partner was watching porn, then that means I'm not doing something right.
No. That is not true. Whoever said that, please do not think that about yourself. That's not true. Porn is a fantasy, and sometimes he wants to see something that you could never accomplish. So please don't make that about yourself. And
then back to the communication when we're talking about the orgasm. Do you feel confident asking for what you want in bed? And 76.5% said yes.
Fantastic.
I told you they rock.
That's a fantastic number. I'm really, really happy to hear that. This is like a telethon. Come on, let's get that up to 95, everybody. What does it take? Let's look at that tote board. We're at 75. Who else can have great sex? Just call in right now.
We need Jerry Lewis.
And Charo.
And then you were talking about, do you ever have sex against your own wishes? So this is not a non-consent thing. What Correct. I meant is that your husband rolls over in the morning, pokes you with a boner, and you're like, ah. Yes. Do you have sex just to please your partner, basically?
Yeah.
And 40% say yes.
I thought that number would be higher.
52% say no. And then sometimes, I love the comments. They're my favorite.
What are they?
So sometimes, but not often. I did when married, with a previous partner, not with current partner. Mm-hmm. That's a good sign. Mm-hmm. And then someone said anything to please my master.
Okay. So that's a different type of relationship.
Right. And somebody says, I would never do anything if I didn't want to, but I have had sex for him. Yes.
Yeah.
So I think that's normal. Because sometimes you're like, oh, I can see that this is something that you're jonesing for, and I could take it or leave it, but I'll do it anyway because, isn't that marriage right there?
Kind of.
I don't mean chronically.
No.
But I just mean,
listen.
Sometimes I don't want to empty the dishwasher.
Right.
And I do it.
That's absolutely right. I'm not saying it's your wifely duty or anything like that, but sometimes it's like, oh, okay, fine, whatever. Just don't take all day,
Right.
Don't be a hero.
Pull out all the tricks in the beginning so it's quick.
It's like, let's go on.
So how many women over 40 do you think look at sex as a chore?
Based on the previous answers I've heard from this group, I'm going to go low and say 32%.
Even lower.
Oh, good.
13.7% see it as a chore, but I will add 9.8% say sometimes it's a chore.
Okay.
So 60.8% do not look at it as a chore.
Thank God you did that math, by the way. If I did it, it'd be so fun.
But, actually, I'm looking at this and, I told you people can add their own comments.
Yeah.
And people just added sometimes, like a bunch of sometimes on their own.
That doesn't help, ladies.
And then one person didn't say sometimes, but said occasionally.
Oh, for fuck's sake. So that number's
just
a lot higher.
Just pick the choice, man.
That number's a lot higher because each of those sometimes is something else.
The sometimes number is higher, not the yes number.
Okay. That's hilarious.
I know, right? Oh, and now can we talk about cheating?
Of course.
Cheating. Okay, so we asked, have you ever cheated on your partner? 15.7% said yes. 16 people out of 101 say they have cheated on their partner.
Okay.
Somebody said not applicable, she added. And then I cheated on my first husband.
Not applicable.
I know. Just skip it, man.
Seriously.
I cheated on my first husband, decided I never wanted to live that way again. Not healthy. Good. And then another one, we flirted extensively and hinted that there was sexual tension, but we never acted on anything physical at all.
I don't know what's better or for worse, but I would say that in my book, which is not the be all and end all, but in my book, that's cheating.
Yeah. And then we asked, has your partner cheated? And I expected
twice the size, like 30%.
Yeah. And it was 21.6 said yes. So that they know of course. And there's a lot of comments, not that I know of.
I did an episode on cheating with an expert, and mostly he said that men are terrible liars and that they get caught easily when they're cheating. And he said women are better liars.
Do you think women are quicker, just in general, quicker on their feet than men when it comes to, like, if you compared myself with my husband, I think the reason that I would be considered a better liar is because I could think very quickly.
I think we have to lie more for our own personal safety, so we have more experience at it. Some creeper's going to ask you out. I have a boyfriend.
Right.
you just have, no, I live with 3 people. I think women, for our own safety, sometimes we find ourselves in positions where we have to lie. So perhaps we are better at it in that sense because it's more of a life or death situation.
And I used to lie a lot as a kid because I had really strict parents and I wanted to do the things that I wanted to do.
Sure.
So I got really good at it, young.
Yeah.
So I made a commitment at some point that I wasn't going to do that anymore. I don't want to lie because it's no fun. It's stressful.
It is stressful because when you lie, you have to remember shit. And
right.
Apparently men would be lashing out and getting angry. They had a lot of tells, according to this guy. And I will link to this episode in my show notes so you can listen back.
So speaking of cheating, we asked, if you discovered your partner cheated, would you remain with them?
Yeah. And
this one has the most of all the colors, but 23.5% said they would remain. 37% said no. That's I thought that would be more, but
no, they would not forgive them?
They would not remain with them.
Okay, so 37% of the respondents said if they were cheated on, they would leave the relationship.
Correct.
Okay.
And then there's so many comments of
like what?
Moment of weakness, yes. Other relationship, no. That's a complex and nuanced question, many elements. I mean, if you asked me this question when I was younger,
right,
it was 100% no.
That's right, 100% no.
100%. I will not be disrespected.
Right.
And
Yeah.
And now I'm I've got 3 kids and I've got the life is complicated.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I can't say what the answer is. It really does depend on the circumstances.
It depends on the circumstances. It depends on your own personal reaction to it.
Who is it?
Who is it? Right. If it's your best friend, that might be a problem. But if it's like and then there's other layers. What if it's another guy and your husband hooked up? I mean, it's like there's like a bunch of different things.
God, yeah. That's
there's a lot of ways this could go. It's the person I dated before I met my husband. I said to him before we started dating, I said, look, I am not going to put up with any cheating. I'm not going to tolerate it. If you find someone else you like better than me, just tell me and move on to her. And 6 months later, he came to me and he said, I met someone I like better than you. And you told me that, if that happened, that I shouldn't cheat and I should just tell you. I said, okay, great, fine. We broke up. And I was, of course, brokenhearted for a while because I was really in love with him. And I was like, oh. I never said that to my current husband when we started dating. And for some reason, I never said it. I don't know why. And
maybe because he's the nicest man in the world.
Maybe. But it's funny, you have that list, you play that party game, it's like who you get a hall pass for. Like,
yes.
And so he put Halle Berry on the list. And then Halle Berry showed up at our kids' school. She was, by the way, she had no makeup on and she was wearing like sweatpants and a t-shirt and she was stunning.
Of course she was.
And Halle Berry walks past me and I was like, huh. But he had subsequently removed her and put something else on there.
It wasn't laminated?
Here's my cheat list. Yes, exactly.
Isabella Rossellini is like, but it's laminated.
No, I met Isabella Rossellini. I worked with her and you should have sex with her if you get the opportunity. She's gorgeous. It's so nice.
So let's go into that one. If you could have sex with any celebrity, who would it be?
I am dying to hear these answers.
Yes. Idris Elba was certainly top of list for a lot of people.
Fantastic.
And I can understand that.
Yep.
We've got some Brad Pitt, some George Clooney's, Daniel Craig, Hugh Jackman, Matthew McConaughey. This one, I love this answer. Kate McKinnon or George Clooney. What a variety right there.
Fantastic.
Right? Richard Dean Morgan or Eric Bana. Hugh Grant. Oh, he's dirty.
Yeah, he is.
Bradley Cooper. Shamar Moore.
Okay.
The Rock. Some people are like, no, because it's not right and they don't want to do that. Queen Latifah. Which she is sexy as hell. Like I think,
oh yeah, you worked with her.
I did work with her twice on both. Other than her, I'm the only person who worked on both of her shows. She's just so cool.
Yeah.
She's very cool. Mm-hmm. Sterling K. Brown.
Interesting.
Captain America or Thor.
Okay. Hey, why not?
Ed Harris.
Ed Harris. One. Okay.
Right?
Sure.
A little interesting. Jason Momoa all day, every day.
Oh, my
God.
There
are like plenty of people. Zac Efron, Toby Keith, Adam Driver, Mick Jagger.
My brother-in-law. No.
Wait,
Mick Jagger?
Yeah.
Okay.
I feel like I'd break him or kill him.
So mine would be John Hamm and Christina Hendricks at the same time. That's mine.
Oh, interesting. So I just started watching that show, Good Girls.
Yeah.
And I didn't really watch Mad Men, but now that I'm watching that, I was like, oh yeah, I can see it. I can see why. Like she is.
No.
But even in Good Girls, she is sexy as hell.
Yes, but in Mad Men, she's sexy as triple hell. It's like it's not even close. Like it fucking. Please watch Mad Men.
All right. Gal
Slowly.
Gadot.
Oh my God! Yes, Gal Gadot. Are you kidding? She'll flip any straight girl.
And Sam Elliot.
Okay.
So Sam Elliot is an interesting one because he's like 110.
Yeah.
And women are still digging him.
Maybe it's that bushy cowboy mustache. I don't know.
I think it's his swagger. I don't know.
Anyway. Very interesting. Whatever your answer is, even if it's Wreck-It Ralph, there's nothing wrong with it as long as the person is of age and is consensual.
Would you have a one-night stand with a stranger if you knew it was safe and no strings attached? 35% said yes.
Are you surprised by that?
I think I am.
How many said no?
58.8%. 60 people. Someone said, not now that I'm married. If I was single, if single, a lot of
question does not apply to me.
Yeah. Yes. If I do not have a boyfriend, do not want to cheat. Okay. That's different. If you're in a relationship, like I wouldn't do that now, but I got married at 31. That's all I'll say. So I had a few years.
I've been with my husband since I was 26.
Well, my point is I had all of my 20s to have all the fun. And so that would apply to me. But as a committed in a marriage, I wouldn't go and do that because it's just not worth it.
Yeah. Who was on your celebrity list? I don't remember.
Bradley Cooper.
Oh, Bradley Cooper. Okay. Even with Bradley Cooper?
Well, I think my husband would be like, I'll do that with you.
I'll let you have
He's
that.
Bradley Cooper.
Yeah.
I was at my 40th, the night before my 40th birthday at a bar in Hollywood, and Colin Farrell was there.
Okay.
And I texted my husband. I was like, I'm turning 40, man. Like, can I make out with Colin Farrell? Clearly, I had a couple drinks. And he's like, no.
Oh, okay.
I'm like, come on, dude. It's a story. Isn't it hilarious? Because that's how I think.
Can I ask you a question? Was Colin Farrell hitting on you?
Oh, no. There was absolutely no chance it was happening. I was just like, hey, this is funny.
Totally.
Would you consider sex with someone in their 20s? 27.5% said yes.
Uh-huh.
Somebody said 30s is young. I'm open to anyone. One of the answers was, duh. Would you consider a same-sex relationship?
65% said yes.
23% said yes.
That is insane. I'm surprised by that. I'm surprised that number's so low.
Really?
Yeah. I just remember a million years ago, we were out with another couple, and we used to call them the Bickersons because they were just miserable and fighting all the time. And my friend Fran and I were walking up the street, and she said, you know, when Bob leaves me, I think I'm going to get in a relationship with a woman. Like as if it was like when we get to the restaurant, I'm going to order garlic bread. Like when Bob leaves me. And I was like, what? And she's like, yeah, I think it should be a lot less complicated.
I find it interesting when people say that because do you think being with a woman is really less complicated?
No, you got twice as much drama. Ask any lesbian friends you know. The drama is through the roof. But the doubling the shoe thing might work out pretty nicely.
Well, it depends on the size of your shoe, right?
That's true.
People are talking about like for fantasies, like maybe virtual, one person's bisexual. Somebody said I'm already in one. I'm surprised that only 2% are saying that they're already in a same-sex relationship. I would think that there were more.
I guess not.
So let's talk about sex clubs and swingers.
All right.
Would you ever go to a sex club or swingers club? Yes. Percentage was, there's a drum roll here, 26.5%.
What?
Yeah. I thought it would be higher.
I did too.
Yeah. Although there are 3% maybes.
Okay.
Probably not, but never say never. If I was with my husband. So that should be a yes.
Is there parking?
Somebody belongs to 2 dungeons.
Well, you know.
Is that a thing? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, is it called 2 dungeons or is it?
No, but there's no
No, but we just came up with our sex club
Oftentimes
name.
there's no sex in a dungeon. It is a BDSM thing. It is not about actual penetrative sex.
Okay.
It's consensual and everyone is okay. And there are people walking through the dungeon and you have to make sure that you keep your voice down. And there's lots of rules, as you would imagine. There should be in a dungeon.
Yeah.
But it all depends on where you go. But a lot of them are not just for sex. A lot of them are just for kink. Like
I remember
BDSM.
when I first moved to LA, there was a club. I don't even know if it's there anymore, but it was called like 7969. It's right there on Santa Monica. Mm-hmm. And we would go in there sometimes. It was called Cinematic. And they had a back room that was like BDSM. And then on stage, I remember one time we went and it was like after another party. So we weren't the most sober. But they were like on stage dancing and then like putting piercings through their nipples, like like hanging them up. And I was, and my friend passed out. Like he just went down.
He went down. Man down. And you had no idea what you were getting into when you went to piercing night at 7969?
Well, I didn't know it was piercing night. Like I said, like we had just finished another party and we're like, let's go in, be adventurous,
let's
whatever.
go in here.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I was just like, what is happening?
Why is everyone wearing black leather? What's happening?
So boudoir photos.
Yes.
Would you ever consider posing for them? Of course, that is higher. 47.1% say yes.
Okay.
And many of them have already done that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Have you done that?
No.
You haven't?
No. I'm so bogged down in details over the whole thing. Who would be the photographer? What kind of lighting? Where are we going to have what am I going to wear? What's the setting going to be? You know, I might, but I don't know who I would use. I certainly want to do, I don't want to do like the boudoir lady at the mall or whatever.
Glamour shots.
Glamour shot. 500 layers of cheesecloth over the lens.
Yeah, I was going to say it'll be all fuzzy.
No, I never have. I don't really think of myself as a sex object. So I have a hard time.
Do you think that you have to see yourself as a sex object to do that? I mean, it's sort of, for many women, it's the point. It helps you get more in touch with that. I'll have to show you mine when we're done.
Okay. I'll see.
It was like 10 years ago, and I will tell you, I wasn't all that, well, I had a double mastectomy. And
Hot.
So hot. And so it was post reconstruction.
Okay.
I've had all the ectomies, and I was like, I need to take control of myself and how I look, and just, and of course I did it for my husband as well, like as a surprise for Valentine's Day. And back when we used to do things for Valentine's Day, other than launch podcasts.
Yeah.
And so when I look at them now, I'm so happy that I did it.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So happy that I did it. Yeah. Because I was like, I was much cuter than I thought I was.
Yeah.
We beat ourselves up, and then 10 years from now, we're like, holy shit, I look great.
Yeah, but your tits will always be perfect. So you got
yeah, I've changed them again since that. That was when I had the first reconstruction. This is a whole other Oprah. So
a whole other Oprah.
So they were very perky at that time.
We'll talk about your tits another time.
Yes. What's the best part of sex over 40? So mostly we got confidence.
Yeah.
Confidence and not giving a fuck.
While you're fucking. Yeah.
Somebody says over 40 is not the issue. It's over 50 you need to worry about.
I'm over 50. That's interesting.
Yeah. The freedom, knowing what I want, a lot of confidence. One person said, is there one best part over 40? Better orgasms. I mean, there's a lot of positive comments about having sex over 40.
Great. And we will share these results in my show notes, so you'll get to see them. And you want to share them with the 40 Thrive community as well?
Definitely. I'm going to share this episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it was really eye-opening that, sex is important.
It is important, and it's not dirty. I mean, it can be if you're having fun, but it's not dirty. It is a self-care issue, and it is a great way to advocate for yourself and have a good time while you're doing it.
Yep. And I think that you've opened so many women's minds to that, and that it's not something that like to put on your list, but it's something to enjoy for yourself, whether it's with a partner or not.
Yeah.
I love the work you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I love the work you're doing too. And I wouldn't have this podcast without you, so I really appreciate that.
Well, you're very welcome.
Was that everything?
Before we go, like the sex toys, right? Because we talked about sex toys. Are you comfortable using sex toys with your partner? What do you think the percentage was?
I'm really hoping it is 75%.
It's 74.5.
What? Yes!
Ding,
wow!
ding, ding.
Except on Price is Right, I went over, so I don't win.
So it's either, it's 74.5% said yes, 17.6% said no. And then some people are like, meh, either way.
Doesn't apply to me.
But that's with a partner. But if they're comfortable using sex toys alone, when it jumped up to 80%.
It had to be. It had to be.
Yeah.
I mean,
but even still, like 14.7% are not comfortable using sex toys alone.
That's
high.
I don't know. I encounter that a lot. Some people are just much more interested in the analog experience. Other people have shame associated with it. Don't feel that they can purchase anything. They're afraid to go get something. Some people feel that they'll be addicted to them, and so they don't want to start using them because they think we won't be able to have an orgasm without them. There's a lot of reasons why women will not use sex toys.
Right. One woman said, it's not that I'm not comfortable, just don't believe in them. What's the point?
There you go. What does that mean? But see, that's shame, right? That's like, I don't believe in them. I don't believe them because that's about women and having pleasure, and women should not be going after pleasure because that's a sin.
Yeah, but this also might be someone who is having regular sex and she just doesn't feel the need.
That's different than I don't believe in them.
Yeah. Somebody says I would be comfortable, but I don't use them on my own, don't need them.
Okay. God bless. That's great.
Girl, get it.
There's no wrong answers.
Yeah. So I do like, though, I think that the community as a whole, or at least these people who answered, is a lot more open-minded.
It's encouraging.
To having a good sex life.
And sometimes it just needs to be modeled. Sometimes people just need to know that there's stuff out there that they weren't aware of.
Right.
And they need to, encounter other people or hear about other things and just, learn that there's a lot more pleasure out there that you're just kind of leaving on the table. And there's nothing wrong with going after it. There's nothing wrong with being sexually satisfied at all. As long as it's consensual, everyone's an adult, there's nothing wrong with it. even if it's with Sam Elliot. And maybe that mustache has magical properties.
I bet it's tickly.
Thank you so much for being on the show and for doing all the hard work and just for being so awesome. And
You're welcome.
helping me get my podcast off the ground and a million other things, talking to me at 3 a.m. when I start freaking out, and for doing all the math, because it would have been tragic if I tried to do that. So thank you.
You're welcome.
You very much.
You're welcome. It was a pleasure. Oh my gosh. Wendy Miller always makes me want to go home and hang out with my husband. That sounds so weird, but she motivates me and she inspires me to like reconnect at home, with my husband. And I think that's pretty awesome because that's what she's doing for so many women on her podcast. And she's making such a huge difference. So thank you, Wendy. Thank you for asking me to be on. Thank you for driving up to my neck of the woods and for making this happen. It was so much fun. And thank you so much for listening. If you have a friend who could benefit from this episode, please share it with her. When you share 40 Thrive, it not only makes a huge difference to the person you sent it to, but it helps me keep creating this show. And that's an absolute dream to do that for you. So share it, rate it, review it, shout it from the rooftops. Just let the world know about 40 Thrive. Thanks again. Until next time, take care and keep thriving. Spring has sprung, and with the change of seasons, sometimes comes an increase in vitality. If you're feeling in the mood for a little more personal time, may I suggest Coconut. Coconut is all about providing clean and natural ingredients when you're enjoying your most intimate moments, with or without a partner. Naturally safe products developed by people who are obsessed with quality. Get 15% off with promo code GROWNASS at grownasswoman.guide/Coconut. That's 15% off with promo code GROWNASS at grownasswoman.guide/Coconut.